You could put all sorts of shapes on a PowerPoint presentation and use your knowledge of layering. Remember bring to font and center back to strategically place them as callouts or to draw attention to your main point, or even be an additional layer on a graphic that you already have in place. Nobody needs to know that the shape wasn't part of the original graphic. So let's start by adding a shape to a slide. I have my office location slide and it looks a little bit boring, so let's see if we can put a shape on it, new shape on it. I'm going to go to the Insert Ribbon tab and choose Shapes. Now from here I have lots of choices. I have lines, straight lines, squiggly lines. I have basic shapes like circles and rectangles. I have cones, I have arrows, even equation shapes and flowcharts. A neat thing too is that I have stars, banners and callouts that I can choose from. Let's put a star in. Now you'll notice that it didn't immediately dump a shape right in. It's actually waiting for me to draw the shape. So I'm going to take my mouse and click and drag according to what size I think it's going to start out as, knowing that I can resize it at any time and then let go when I'm happy with it. So now that I've got my shape, there are a couple of things I can do. I can use the corners to make it bigger or smaller. I can click and drag with the mouse to move it anywhere, or I can just delete it if I don't like it, by either right-clicking and deleting shape or just hitting the delete key on the keyboard. I'm going to put it back now, insert shape, stars and banners, redraw my shape, and I'm going to add some text over it. So I'm going to insert a text box and put my cursor right in here, opening November. I'm going to put it right on top of that shape. So let's come down here. Remember I use our images slide, and I want it to call attention to the actual directory so people would know how to find it. So I'm going to go back to my insert tab. I'm going to choose a shape. This time I'll choose a rectangle. I'm going to draw that shape right over it, just so it can be in place for when we're ready to call attention to it. And I'm going to insert another shape, which is a call out, and then click and drag over here, because I do have all that white space. And I can actually add some text in here. So I'll slide over it so it does look like all that call out is pointing towards my box here. I can nudge it by moving my arrow key up and down. That's going to fine tune where it's going on the slide. And I can make it bigger or smaller. So I've got those in place, and there is one more thing I want to show you. I'm going to come back to my new color vote results slide. Now I want to point out the winner, so I'm going to put in an arrow. There is something neat you can do with arrows. I'm going to go back to insert shapes, and this time I'm going to choose a block arrow. I get to draw the arrow. I can adjust it so it doesn't really matter what size I start out with. I'm going to position it where I want to, more or less. I can use the arrow buttons to nudge it and fine tune it, but now I can reshape it. Something that's really cool is the zoom feature, so that I can actually zoom in and see what I'm working with here. You can slide over. Now that I've zoomed in to get a really good look in my arrow, I can see that in addition to stretching it or shrinking it, because it's an arrow, I can change the size of certain points of it. For example, these little yellow dots means that I can click on them and drag to actually change the base shape of the point of the arrow. And I can come down here and change the base shape of the long part of the arrow. So there is lots of customization that I can do. I'm going to add another text box over this one by going to insert text box and typing winner, because that's what I'm actually pointing out on this slide. I can make the font smaller so it fits, and I can zoom back out to show what it's going to look like. Now that looks nice. So next up, we're going to make these shapes actually usable and very pretty.